Talk Show. Recorded live.
Hello, everybody. This is the December 13th edition of the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. Obviously, you could find that at BlackScienceFictionSociety.com. Tonight, our special guest is Mark Dudley, and he is a native of Michigan, currently living in Detroit. He's, he's done a number of things. I mean, a lot of things that he's done, even from early on. We'll actually have him tell you that, but he's the head of, he got a role-playing game. Excuse me, hang on. You know, you do this stuff from your home, and all kinds of things happen all at one time. Anyway, I want to welcome you, Mark. Thanks for dropping by. How are you this evening?
Thanks for having me.
How's your weather up there? Down here in Chicago, we just got through a bunch of 0-degree nights, but it seems a little bit better now. How about you?
Well, you guys are sending us something from what I understand. You know, one of them Chicago gifts, you guys send us those for every so often. You know, we appreciate it, you know, the cold and the sleet and stuff, you know. You know, we never can say Chicago didn't give us anything.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, being on the other side of the lake, there are times when you catch snow that we don't get. You know, all of a sudden I'm looking at, you know, Valparaiso, stuff on your side where the weather hits you particularly hard. Has your winter been bad this year so far, or this is
it's been cold. That's what it's been. It's been cold.
Yeah. All right, and are you a native
Michigander, that's what they call us, I guess. Yeah,
Michigander, okay.
Yeah, born and raised in Michigan, absolutely.
And in the Detroit area, or?
Yep, in the Detroit area. Yep.
Man, all right. So, tell us a little bit about. I mean, you know, according to your bio, you know, you kind of got into art a little bit early. How young were you when you? I mean, I'm imagining that maybe your artwork was one of the first things that you started doing creatively.
Well, I've been drawing, man, since I was like 3 years old. I have an uncle.
Yeah.
My grandfather, he drew. I have an uncle who, this guy used to draw. When I was growing up, he used to draw the big Thor pieces, you know, in the 70s, and you know, a lot of superhero stuff. And I mean, I whatever my uncle did, I wanted to do.
Sure.
So, you know, and so I used to, you know, back here in Michigan, we had was a Channel 7 weekly movie series that happened right on our ABC affiliate, and they would show Godzilla weeks, Gamera weeks, all the kids run home, you know, and that type of stuff kind of, you know, stoked the imagination. Ultraman, you know, giant robot, things like that, and you know, I would tear apart paper bags and draw murals. You know, I'd sit under the kitchen table and tear apart paper bags and draw murals and, you know, anything. I mean, I just ate sci-fi up, man. I've been a sci-fi fan for a long time, and you know, that's kind of what was the fire, you know, for me drawing. You know,
right? The impetus for you to kind of get excited about it. Yeah,
and always kept me excited.
Now, was your uncle like a commercial artist, or he just liked to draw?
Actually, my uncle's an engineer.
Okay.
And I went to school at first for engineering too. You know, I said, like I told you, I followed my uncle pretty much. If he did it 9 times out of 10, I did it.
Well, that's pretty cool, and it sounds like he was very, you know, like supportive of you drawing and things like that. So it was almost like you had a cool mentor, right?
Well, yeah, he was supportive. You know, he's really supportive, but one thing, you know, he always wanted me to find my own way. You know, even now, you know, he doesn't draw anymore, but he's like, look, you know, you have to do what's going to make you happy, and you have to put out stuff that's going to, you know, speak to who you are, you know, as an artist. So, you know, I appreciate him for that. And I had a supportive mother, too. That's the thing. My mother was really, really supportive.
She wasn't like, she just was, I mean, she wasn't like one of these mothers that pushes you, you know. Yeah, I guess the typical one is like the mother that has their daughter in all of the pageants and stuff like that. Was she? I mean, how did her support kind of manifest for you?
It was kind of weird because my mother, you know, I had some, you know, academic success, you know, early on. I always got good grades and stuff, you know, and the thing was, my mother, she was happy with that. But mother, she saw that I liked drawing. So it's a funny thing was that I went to a public school here, and I ended up getting a scholarship through one of the trio programs, Upward Bound, to this boarding school. So I graduated from boarding school, Cranbrook, Kingston, right? So my mother, everybody was, everybody's happy when he graduated from boarding school, and I ended up, getting a scholarship to Cornell. So I'm going to Cornell, to college. But my mother pulled me aside, and she's like, everybody's celebrating you here, but you draw. That's what you do. You think about this. And unfortunately, I didn't listen to her. My mother, if she had her way, I would end up going to art school instead of going to follow my uncle as an engineer or trying to become an engineer. But that she saw that. Sometimes parents can see things that you just can't see.
Right.
So she saw that, and so she was like, "Look, you ought to go to CCS." I didn't listen. I'm hard headed. You know how you get once once the celebrity starts to wind around you. You kind of can't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately I got back on the path, and here I am today. My mom, like I said, that was her support. Seeing what really was going to make me happy.
Right. And I mean, obviously mothers have a different perspective because they watch you different than you think about yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you got into engineering, and about how far along did you get into, were you into the engineering before you decided, you know what, Mom's was right?
I was 2 years in engineering at Cornell, and then, I backed up. I was like, man, I looked at the money it was going to cost me, and then I looked at the fact that engineers was taking 6 years to graduate, and I was like, man, I can't do this. I got to change my mind.
Right.
But everything after that point supported the drawing. I said, okay, I'm gonna try to be a comic artist or some sort of artist. So I end up going into the business school there, and they was just starting their IT program. So I graduated with an IT degree, but still everything was to support the art. Everything I'd have done up to this point is to support the art. So.
Well, did you take any art classes at all, or did you just?
It's funny. I was self-taught up until I took an anatomy class in my senior year of college. I took one, but it's funny. I got laid off. I worked at Chrysler for about 11 years, so I got laid off from there. And my wife was in school, so it was like, maybe I should, go back to school. And I kind of got caught up in the Art Institute of Pittsburgh stuff, and it's cool. If you don't know anything about art, then you kind of going to be in trouble, in that online stuff. But if you have some stuff, some stuff, then it's a little easier. So I learned some stuff there, got into animation and stuff like that, But that's about as much formal training, those 2.5 years I was there. So, and that was kind of recent.
Sure. One of the things that I always ask people, well, maybe not always, because someone's going to go back and check all the podcasts and then call me a lie. But nowadays we have so many tools, so many digital tools where people can just jump in and do things. A lot of people don't pay attention to learning, some of the fundamentals about art, which I really
learning the craft. The craft is what you're talking about. No, people don't learn the craft. They don't. You're right. They don't take that time. I was just talking to I'm really good friends with Lloyd Cheatham. You guys had him on the show before. Lloyd, we talk about this all the time. People are, I think that it's people, delayed gratification is something that these days is not how people view their lives. They don't want to wait. So, art is a labor of love, and labor is the key term, So, ultimately, you're going to have to put in the work. So a lot of times, people, they'll see, like I was saying before, they'll see, this kid putting out a comic or somebody else putting out some art or whatever, and the stuff will be substandard, but it's out there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
so since
and the thing is that, there's also this big entitlement issue too, where you've got people who think, well, just because I drew something, and excuse me about the whole black marketing thing, and just because I'm black, how come y'all are hating on me because all my creatures have 3 fingers on their hands?
Oh man,
you know what I'm saying?
Hey, you need to. Let me tell you guys. You guys need to quit. You and the NSA need to quit monitoring me and Lloyd's conversations.
Oh, that's what y'all talk about? Because I'm serious. I mean, same thing for writing. And you know, I'm a writer. I'm not an artist, man. I so envy your talent. To be able to create visually like that is something that I wish I could do. That and play piano like Ramsey Lewis, but that's a whole other thing.
And
but
Ramsey
see, the
Lewis
thing
can play that
is, oh yeah, he can. But
yes,
see, the thing is, you know, other writers come to me and they say, hey, you published a book. Can you read my stuff? And then when I look at it, and all of a sudden in the first paragraph they've got like bad grammar, a couple things misspelled, and I go, well, what are you going to do with this? Well, I was getting ready to post it on my website. I said, well, did you go through and edit it? And they went, well, I took a look at it. And like you said, you know, they don't pay attention to the craft, and they feel that just because they did it, they've got some entitlement issue about, well, I did it, therefore you have to like it. You know, and Lord help you if you hand out any criticism, because I think all they're looking for is a cheerleader and not any kind of critique.
This is the truth. I mean, my thing is this. I've been drawing professionally since '95, and it's funny. I draw primarily for Palladium Books. They're a role-playing game company. They put out Robotech. They used to do Heroes on. They used to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've been working with you guys for a while, and the thing is, a lot of times when you're an artist, man, you have to be critical. I mean, you have to be hypercritical of yourself, because you don't want to, you know, not put your best foot forward out there. You don't want to, you know, you once you put that art out there, you can't get it back, man. It's out there. All right, so you want that thing to try to be as, you know, as strong as possible. It's not always going to be, you know, super strong to the point where there are no mistakes. Nobody has art like that, but you want to try to make it so it represents you and, you know, the craft, like we just were talking about.
Yeah,
you know,
so
craft is important.
Yeah, now when let's talk about, you know, okay, so after you got out of the whole engineering thing and discovered, you know what, this is not for me. About how long did you kind of spend in the service of your education? And how quickly did you jump out to trying to do things either, you know, for an outward community or even like commercially? You know, what was kind of like the time period there?
Well, you know, I got into this thing. Well, the professionally, I'm a child of the '90s from a professional standpoint. So you know what's going on there. Image, you know, everybody. We all thought we could be Jim Lee, or we all thought we could be the next Larry Stroman. You know, and you know, we're trying to get out there. And, you know, I did the circuit just like everybody else. You know, I put out the self-published books and stuff like that. But you know, I'm a stickler. I'm hard on myself, and I knew I wasn't ready. You know, I mean, I put it out there, but I knew I wasn't ready. But you know, what happens is that back when me, my buddy Brandon Clark, and my buddy Kazon, when we started Drunken Style Studios back in '94, you know. We got a gig with Palladium, so that was pretty much our first professional work. So it's probably like 3 years of grinding, you know, to get that job, you know. But again, if I show you my work from back then, you know, you'll be like, oh, okay, because I know I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, you know, it doesn't. You know, the cool part about that kind of thinking is it doesn't matter what I think when I look at your stuff. The fact of the matter is when you look at it and you go to yourself, you're smart enough with yourself to go, I'm not ready yet.
Right,
or,
and that's
you know,
the key right there.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
I mean, you got to be real
good
with yourself. You know what I mean? A lot of everybody, you know, everybody don't have a jetpack on.
Well, that is true. Not only that, but not everybody gets to start near the finish line either.
Right. I mean, life would be kind of boring if that was the case anyway, right?
Right. Okay, so, I mean, about 3 years of putting in some time, putting in the grind, as you said. And, okay, so you've got the Palladium connection. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, this is the thing. I'm a role-playing game guy, all right? So I was playing Heroes Unlimited back in, like, '83. That was one of the first books of theirs that I saw. So it's kind of
Okay.
kismet that I end up working for him. I remember we were sitting up in the sweat box, which was my buddy. That was what we call our studio, which was my buddy Brandon's apartment. And it was a sweat box, and doing what we always do after working on stuff, playing PlayStation 1 at the time, and and so we're talking whatever. And we're like, oh, we all gamers, and I said to these guys, I was like, look, there's a convention going on, and Palladium's going to be there. Let's see if we can get us a job with Palladium. And we really, we didn't think we were going to get no job, man. We're like, yeah, whatever, it's a pipe dream. So we walk in there.
And it was something to do. Yeah.
Right. We walk in there, we show Kevin Simbier our stuff, and he looks at us, and he's like, yeah, I'll send you guys a job. We're like, what? What the heck is this? We're looking for the hidden camera.
Right. But
the
other thing, a lot of that is timing too. Because
right.
Stop and think about that. You're talking about mid-'90s, and if you, I didn't do role-playing games. I was a first-person shooter guy.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the artwork, when you look at the mechanics of everything, back then, anybody who could consistently turn out something pretty decent had a chance. It's not like today where you've got, thousands of people trying to do artwork, thousands of people trying to have that break and make that cut. So, part of it was obviously opportunity, but you still had to perform.
See, it's funny, though, because a lot of these guys, I'm glad you brought that point up, because a lot of these guys, even though, you got some really good guys out here these days, but what I'm finding is that a lot of these guys are just not professional.
Right.
They can draw well, but being a professional has a whole lot more to do than how you carry yourself and how you, relate to the client than it is with your, how much you draw and whatever. I don't know if you heard the adage about getting hired. They said there are three things. One, you're good, one, you're fast, and one, somebody likes you. And any
right.
two of those combinations of things will get you a job.
That's true, yes.
A lot of times these guys, they'll be nice on deviant art or whatever, but when you talk to them, they're drawn out of a fishbowl. They don't know how to do what the client asks for. They want to tell the client what they need. That's not how you do it.
Well, you know as well as I do, at least having gone through the IT thing, one of my first gigs was going and consulting to Abbott Labs. Now, their IT department spends more in a year than I will ever see in my whole life.
Right.
So why would they call somebody from the outside to do it? And I found out why, because one of the things is, whenever they told me what they wanted me to do in doing some programming, if they went to their own people first, their own people said, no, that's not what you want. What you want is this. Right. And a lot of people, especially one-trick pony artists, try to pull that. When somebody, a client says, I would really like to have, we're looking for this, this, and this, and they go, no, you don't really want that. You want this, because this, whatever that this is the thing that they're good at. And going back to learning your craft, maybe they're not so good at doing exactly what the people want.
Right.
So anyway, you get that first
term.
yeah, and you got that first gig. Mostly why? Because what do you think? Do you think it was because you were available, because you were aggressive, or you had just sufficiently enough chops?
I think that we were diverse. That's the term.
Okay. All right.
In Drunken Style, when we first started Drunken Style, we had our wonderkind young guy, Kazong, who was about 17 at the time, and my buddy Brandon, and he was a good inker. I had a lot of, I think that, again, it wasn't because of me, it was probably because of those two guys. I was doing a lot of business management more so than anything. I was the guy who went and got the checks and made sure that everything was taken care of tax-wise, but, I was still growing as an artist, and I still got work right along with them.
Yeah, but you can't put that down, because a lot of people don't know about the business of doing business.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a plus. That's helped me immensely up to this point in my life. You can't. Sometimes people grow at different rates, and I'm definitely understand that.
Yeah.
But the thing was that's what that business acumen. We end up eventually getting canned from the job. I can't remember what the circumstances was. But later on, I went back, and it was just me, and I've been practicing. My skills have gotten better, and he decided, he's going to take another chance on me, and I've been working for him ever since. And that's the thing. I mean, I've brought a lot of guys through there. The one thing I like about Palladium, I'm really close with Kevin Simbieta, and he respects, my eye, when it comes to artists and anything. I'll try to, bring him guys that are going to be able to do the work and be able to have the professional acumen to, make things happen. So, I mean, I guess like you said, with the business, putting that with the art, I think that was something that, was my strong suit, I guess, at the time, too.
Now, as like, and I assume you were kind of running yourself as an independent at that time, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so as you're doing that, obviously you had the business acumen. How was having to do everything yourself, both the creative and the business part? I mean, did you have any trouble with kind of making them both go as well as you wanted them to, or do you feel that you were pretty well versed ahead of time, so that things were pretty smooth by the time you got to the point where you were an independent?
Yeah, that's the latter. I like what you were saying. I had gotten, I beat my head, doing the business thing, and to the point when I got to be independent, I already knew a bunch of stuff. I'm still learning today, mind you, but I already knew a bunch of stuff. And so the art stuff just kind of, was like the key, to the lock that, that propelled me, I think.
Okay, so well, that was the art for the gaming environment, right?
Well, again, everything always served comics. I'm a compartmentalist. I compartmentalize everything. So, okay, gaming is cool, but I use that to be able to try stuff that I couldn't try, because I obviously I wasn't publishing comics. So one thing about gaming, when you do pen and paper role-playing gaming, you have to, your storytelling has to be good, and you only get one shot. You get one piece. If they tell you, oh, okay, we got to have this vampire, doing this to, this maiden or whatever, you have to use that storytelling ability to knock that out right there and right there, in that one piece. In comics, you get how many panels to do it, so, storytelling is what I think that you learn more so, doing, one role playing than anything,
And it sounds like, for those who don't know the industry, it's more of a trial by fire than anything else, because you not only do you have to be spot on right away, but you also have to build some consistency. Otherwise, you get a job and then it goes away, and then where are you?
Well, the thing is that, like you said, I've done work for other people, Tritech Systems. I've done stuff for Green Ronin, a whole bunch of other role-playing game guys. But the thing is that that industry is kind of tough. I work for the Palladium is one of the higher-paying role-playing guys. You got some guys I can tell you some horror stories about what some of these guys pay. And they want spot-on quality, and they want to pay you Mr. Gilmore Plantation wages,
Okay.
They say you on the Gilmore Plantation, you must get your mind to working. So that's the thing. I mean, sometimes, I'm not a proponent of giving people what they pay for. I mean, if my name is on it, so if my name is on it, okay, if it was $25, I'm gonna try to make it the best that it can be. Because at the end of the day, all you got is your name.
Well, and that makes sense too, because whatever you do in that one circumstance, that's one job. That may be one commission. That may be And the fact of the matter is, in order to make a living at this, you have to not only build reputation, but your portfolio has to be sound too.
Right. And sometimes, it's funny that since I got a big role-playing game portfolio, as I'm moving into comics, people who are actually in comics, a lot of comic guys don't know me. That's what. And so I'm starting to be kind of like the X Factor, moving into comics. And they'll be like, man, where did this guy come from? And I'll tell you, in Detroit, there's a whole lot of people you're going to see soon to where you're going to say, where did this guy come from, and because I think that there's so much art out here that you get trapped in your own little art bubble. So the comic guys know about the comic guys. Role-playing guys know about the role-playing guys, you know. And I guess they figure never tell the two meet, but they cross-pollinate all the time.
Well,
you know?
I mean, and look in Detroit. I mean, and I'm not running it down, but you know, it's not the most. There's not a whole lot of money running around Detroit. So
it depends on what you're doing.
No. I understand that, but wait, I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is, in order to do well, you know, you. I think to what you said was your skills have to cross barriers.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, yeah, and on that alone, you know, that part of the trial by fire where you actually have to really perform, and you have to perform out in different venues, different genres, things like that. I think it would probably contribute to, if somebody was serious about their art, them getting a better leg up and finding out what the real world is about a lot quicker.
And you got to be willing to listen. I know me and the fool Richardson, we've gotten really close over the years, you know, of communicating and whatnot. And you know, it's always good because she's almost like an extra set of eyes. You know, if I do something, you know, I'll toss it to her and she'll be like, you know, Mark, look at that arm, look at that whatever. She'll catch things I didn't catch. I mean, you know, that's cool to have that extra set of eyes there that you can trust too, you know. And that's why I'm big on community.
Okay. And then the other thing is, it also sounds like that you're not afraid of criticism at all, because you look at it as something that moves you forward, not holds you back.
Oh yeah, you can't be. That's one of the big things. You know, you got people like you. Let's go back to what you were talking about earlier, to where this guy, he's just there basically almost for the vanity of it. Like, say you like my work or whatever. You know, he's not there to get better. You know, he's not there to he's not there to work work on his craft. He's there for accolades. And if you're really serious about working on your craft, you know, you're gonna, you know, people. Hey, look, you better walk around with that rubber suit like when they train those dogs. You know, because you're gonna get bricks thrown at you. They're gonna stick the dogs on you. You know, and it's gonna hurt, but you know, you're gonna get better. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, it sounds like, at least at the very beginning, you know, you had some good support. You had some good supporting actors around you. Then you busted out on your own. Are you still on your own now, or
well,
you know?
It's funny. Drunken Style Studios, we as a business entity, we're not really together anymore, but we're still affiliated. And it's funny because Drunken Style Studios, we started because we were all big Wu-Tang fanatics and Kung Fu movie fanatics. So
yes,
you know, everyone has what we call a chamber. You know, like the 36 chambers of Shaolin. And Imaginos Workshop is those are my guys now, and that's who I'm working with. That's my chamber. My buddy Brandon, you know, he has Dark Chamber Productions. He put out you've probably seen some of his work. He's putting out he used to do this webcomic called Morning Squirts. It was kind of nuts, and everybody liked it. I mean, it was doing pretty good circulation wise. And my buddy Kai, he does a little work and stuff, but he's actually moved into photography. You know, I mean, he's one of the best photographers here in southeastern Michigan. He does a lot of stuff like The Dirty Show and things like that, you know. But I mean, everybody's staying creative, but we still got that love for each other. We still brothers, you know. So we root for each other. But right now, it's Imaginos Workshop is who I'm working with now. We're, you know, besides doing comics, we're working on film scripts. You know, we're doing short films. You know, we got some other partners, Rap Productions, Mill Movement Productions. You know, we're doing short films and stuff. We're just basically trying to move, using comics as our base, we're trying to move beyond comics to try to, you know, get a foothold in a greater entertainment world. I guess that would probably be the best way to say it.
Well, and it also sounds like you're trying to grow your reach and your revenue stream at the same time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think diversity pays. They can tell you what they want to, but diversity pays well.
Right.
If you can handle it, you know.
You know, something unusual too that I'm going to point out to everybody listening is the fact that you have a collaborative environment in, you know, where the people you started out with are not only still friends, but I'm guessing that when needed, you all can work together on individual projects
all
as well.
the time. I mean, Brandon, we're doing the Kickstarter right now for our anthology, Imaginos Plus, and Brandon is doing some inking for me on that, and Kai's doing some more inking. We always, people, they say, like Wu-Tang said, that they're like Voltron. Yeah, we like Voltron too. We'll form up whenever we need to form up to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a lot of people, and I mentioned this in previous shows, and I don't mean to harp on it, but it is true. A lot of people, a lot of black folks, a lot of our creatives treat what we do as a zero-sum game. So, like, if I'm writing a script for a comic and, I could use your input, I may not necessarily ask for your input because rather than share and make something better, they treat it like a zero-sum game, like every dollar you get is a dollar they'll never see. You know what I'm saying?
And that's another issue I have. You're absolutely correct, and I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, I'm like this, if somebody can help me be a better artist, a better writer, why wouldn't I, take advantage of that? I mean, that's
Absolutely.
common sense to me. I don't understand that.
I don't either. I think one of the perfect examples is, Marvel Comics is not just Stan Lee.
Right.
I mean, how many hundreds, maybe even, well, we know it could be at least hundreds of different people are in that food chain that makes that successful.
Don't tell Stan that, though. He might come and do something to you.
He's an old man. I could take him. But the thing, but see, the thing is, excuse me, is that people don't recognize that through unity there's strength.
Absolutely, and that is what I mean. You and I are probably at the same mountaintop, sitting next to each other. It's like, 'cause that's what we're preaching. I mean, my thing is that I've noticed over time. I've seen a lot of artists. I have a lot of friends, so I've seen guys. They will go and sequester themselves and whatnot. When you sequester yourself, you don't know what's going on around you. You know
right.
what I mean? So when you come out, you think you're in fighting shape. The game has moved to a quantum level at that point.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you're like, whoa.
And go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I'm saying, look how many brothers bring a knife to a gunfight because they
not
have
even
no
that.
idea.
They bring a water pistol to a gunfight.
Because they have no idea, basically, how competitive it is. And when you look at a kind of a shrinking economy, our economy is not as good as it was 10 years ago.
Oh, no, not at all.
And so when you look at a shrinking economy and you think, I'm going to go it alone because I'd rather have both dollars instead of splitting a dollar and then getting, $50 more later down the road because I've put together a good team, it seems rather counterproductive,
Absolutely, and that's the problem.
And disappointing, yeah.
I just don't, again, people don't look at the big picture, and that tends to be a problem too. They only look at, right at, the end of the nose on their face. So they can't see that, collaboration is what everyone does. You think Disney doesn't just come out and some magically, make movies. I'm Disney, I'm making these movies. Collaboration is what happens. Well,
without Pixar, Disney would have had a pretty abysmal, financial situation for the last decade.
So much so that they ran after them when they left.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you've got you've got your you've got the studio, you've got your association of people who kind of you're able to draw upon I guess would you call Drunken Style Studio kind of like an umbrella of
Drunken
creative
Style is
talent?
more. Yeah, well, it's funny because, like I said, I don't deal so much with Drunken Style guys as much as I would, say my Imaginos guys. My Imaginos is my business. So,
right.
I got 4 other partners, and we, that the day-to-day goes through there. But what's funny is that, I do most of the main art, and I also, teach, in Detroit we have this organization called Detroit Tradecraft, which is just a bunch of other artists, and we got together because at one point the Detroit community was really tight. Everybody knew everybody counted everybody, but that kind of fell away. So Detroit Tradecraft, as a group of artists, is trying to bring that back. And on that front, Imaginos is there as one of the groups in Detroit, Tradecraft, trying to do that. And so I decided to, one of the things I like to teach, I like to give, I think sharing information is the best way to foster, if you want to fix something, share information. All right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what I did, we talked about it, and I got tasked with building a pilot program, for bringing young artists, from kindling to an edifice. I guess
Right.
that's the best way to put it. So, I've been doing that for the last year and a half. I got my syllabus and all that stuff squared away, and we're going to try to go nonprofit with this eventually. But that is basically like sports, baseball. We built our own farm team here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what age group?
We're good. From here on in, we're going to probably start 10 and up. I mean, I got students right now. Most of my students are in the late teens, early 20s. They're college students and stuff. But the curriculum, we found that we got two ways of doing it. One is actual teaching of classes, and the other one is a workshop. Now, we go to conventions and we do this workshop 2-3 hours, whatever, and people seem to get a lot out of it. We did it at YomaCon this last year, and people really, really responded to it. And I pick up extra students like that. And then you got the internet. Internet is an amazing thing. I'm 43 now, so I'm still marveling, even though I do IT, at this internet, because I have some students in the Philippines that I'm doing work with, teaching them how to color, and it's like, man, Skype is an amazing thing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's all about building a community for me anyway.
Well, not only that, but another thing that people overlook is when you do this kind of community outreach, what you're also doing is you're building your own customers.
Oh, heck yeah,
because
absolutely.
You've got, people don't look at that. Don't say it like that. People don't see it. People go, well, if I got to teach these kids, they're just going to be competition for me if they get good. And not realizing that you're growing your marketplace,
Right, and I look at it different. I look at it like this. I teach these kids, when I get older or whatever, they might want to throw Uncle Mark a bone.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen anything from Mark. Let's give him a call and see if he has groceries. Is he eating cat food?
Let's see what that old bastard's doing.
Okay, so you've got a curriculum, and you're going to roll it out as a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
How do you think you guys are going to kind of push the idea in the Detroit area? What kind of, are you going to go directly to the schools, or?
Well, can go to the schools. But what we're going to do, what I'm going to start doing is, I know some politicians, and I've been talking to them about giving me some room in one of these public libraries to actually start teaching the class. So what we're going to do, we'll go to the schools and we'll let them know what's there first. We're going to do it in phases. First we're going to teach the smaller class, and if it blows up, then we get the funding, being a nonprofit, then we'll start branching out to supplementing some of these non-existent art programs, in the area. That's the key, supplementing the art program, because again, as you know, throughout the country, art is a casualty.
Yeah. So, a friend of mine here in Chicago wants to get a bus.
That would be awesome too.
And then pull out half of the seats, put in a counter, or actually pull out all the seats, and then go and supplement all of these, go from school to school to school, or park to park, whatever it ends up being, and supplementing all of these other non-existent art programs that have just been, that are gone. And go ahead.
I think that the 70s, in the 70s, man, from a community standpoint, that's where all the ideas are. If you want to reach back, because remember when we were kids, man, they had the bookmobile, they had the swim mobile, they had all sorts of stuff, from a community standpoint, and those dollars are gone because greed, corruption, whatever you want to call it. People they're like, I don't know where the dollars are. The dollars haven't gotten, they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't. The dollars haven't disappeared. They've just been, moved elsewhere.
reallocated. Yes.
Right, reallocate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think the timing on the program is going to be? Is this something you're looking at for like next year?
Well, we're going to try to
Mark?
start the initial part of the programs early this year. Waiting to get the Kickstarter out of the way and get the actual and get the actual comic out. I mean, again, one thing people don't really understand. When you're doing projects, every piece of that project helps to buttress other pieces. The Kickstarter itself that we're doing for this book. I'm using some of the students, to do things in the book. They're learning. They're learning how to do lettering. They're learning how to do, inking. And they're being able to apply this stuff to the actual book, so that when it comes time for their resume to get fat, and they've already done things. That's the thing. People are like, oh, you're getting a lot of work for free. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm getting work for free, but I'm teaching them for free too. So.
Right. It's not like you're making some huge, enormous profit off of it, or somebody's putting a fat check in your pocket while you're not passing anything on, Right.
My profit is growth. My profit is watching these young kids move to the next level and knowing that, that I was able to, have a hand in, that person's, moving to that next level. That's fulfilling to me.
Well, and it's the epitome of the whole idea of paying it forward.
Right.
Because I don't think, whether you're a singular talent or not, very few of us got to where we are alone.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, if you can't acknowledge the fact that there were people in your past who helped you get where you are, and maybe you should be thinking in terms of maybe giving somebody else a little leg up,
Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a quick story.
Okay, good. No. Stretch it out as long as you want. We got a 2-hour show.
There's the thing. I know Rick Mays gets tired of me, because every time I catch him anywhere online, I'm going to thank him, right?
Okay.
Because, Rick Mays, he did Kabuki. He's also done some Savage Dragon stuff like that. I remember it had to be like on 94 or whatever. I was showing my little portfolio around and whatnot, and people just dogging me, man. I mean, they throwing bricks at me. And, I'm starting to feel bad and whatnot. And I went to Rick Mays. Rick Mays, he looked at my work, and he was like, okay, why are you cross-hatching? I was like, well, everybody cross-hatches. He's like, wrong answer. He said, I want you to stop cross-hatching. Just work on spotting your blacks. So I actually did that. I stopped cross-hatching, man, for like 2-3 years, right? And I noticed that one day the light switch came on, and it was like, wow, you cross-hatch to be able to create shape and to show shape in particular pieces of work. I get it. So, my cross-hatching style sometimes still not the cleanest, whatever, but it does what it needs to do because I understand it. All right, and that's the thing. Rick Mays, that one thing put me on a path to realizing, look, hey, you'll meet people and they'll be like, oh, well, your style isn't clean or whatever. It's a million different styles of art. It's a million different ways to get that thing moving. But and you're going to always have different fans for different things too.
Sure.
I think that a lot of times, we get so caught up in the dogma of doing things that we don't see that we sometimes we can't see skill. We can't see skill for the amount of noise that we create for ourselves.
Okay, I see what you're saying. That there's so much crosstalk and there's so much other stuff going on. Sometimes we're not able to dig down to what the important things are or what the essence of something is, so that it could not only be appreciated better, but so that we could understand the art better.
Right. I've gotten to a point, where, I've gotten to a point now backing up, and it's about backing up too. As I've started to back up and look at other people's arts, there are people who I see that I think are far better than their artistic standing in the industry.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Then there are some people who I think are a lot more hacks than they get credit for, too.
or get too much credit, but they are still hacks.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, you know, you got to be, at the end of the day, when you get in a room as an artist, a writer, writing is art, you get in that room, so you know. You get in that room by yourself and nobody's around, you can't lie to yourself. You know who you are, right at the end of the day. So all the accolades, all the people telling you you're great and this and that and this, you know, one thing about art, as you know, we can be lonely people and we can be self-deprecating too.
Get out.
You
no,
know?
You're right, and the thing is that there's a certain, well, there's two things, you know, obviously in terms of commercial art, or if you're putting yourself out there so that other people can see you, so that you can maybe get work. The other thing that a lot of these young kids don't realize is you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Yep, you got that right.
And if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, and you don't have pride, if you don't have a certain amount of visual pride and stick-to-itiveness for your work, it will show.
Right, and there you go, right there.
Yeah.
And it's painful, too, to watch, because it's like you said, you know, people are like, notice me. Yeah, they're going to notice you for the wrong thing, and it's going to be a problem. You know, digging yourself out of that hole is not pretty.
Well, my biggest insult, my biggest insult is, he has ego far in excess of his talent. You know,
yeah, that's kind of hardcore.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing is, a lot of people, and it goes back to what you said. You know, if you're not interested in doing the fundamentals, if you're not interested in learning your craft well, people are going to see that, and they're going to question why you're doing it in the first place.
Right.
You know, what makes you think that you're the class of artists who you believe that you think you are, you know?
Look, I come from the standpoint that, look, you know, sometimes I suck, and sometimes I suck less. You know what I mean? Just depending on the day. You know, I get to a point, you know, I laugh and joke with my buddies and our students. I be like, look, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if you guys aren't better than me in 10 years, then you guys suck. Because the student is always supposed to surpass the teacher.
Well, that is true. But then on the other hand, you're not one of those who, you know, where they say those who can do and those who can't teach. You know, you're a lucky hybrid. Well, actually, you're a denial of that, because you're one of the few who can, and you're also passing your skills on and passing your insight on.
I'm stealing from them every chance I get. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
hold up. It's a two-way street.
I know. I know, but the thing is, you know, a lot of people don't pay it forward. A lot of people, you know, don't see any value, or don't have the time, or maybe don't have the, I don't know, whatever, to understand that not only is paying it forward, or at least sharing your abilities with somebody else, an important aspect in your community, with your people, things like that. But it also, I believe, it also makes your art better, because you can't teach people bad stuff and feel good about yourself.
This is a stickler. You know, I won't mention names, but a really high-profile brother, you know, in the art community here, he espouses, well, you know, you don't want to hang around with people. You want to hang around with people who are better than you. Okay, all right, okay, that's cool, but you know, I believe you want to hang out with people who are motivated. You know, I have students. I have students that are actually, I believe that they're better than I am at doing certain things. Like one of my buddies, I think he draws beautiful hands. You know, he needs to work on other things. He's working on that, but I'm like, shoot, I study that guy's hands all the time. You know, he's supposed to be a student. I'm like, I gotta draw beautiful hands. I'm gonna learn how he draws these hands. You know, I'm getting as much as I'm giving.
Right.
You know, that's
somebody
what people
here. Lloyd says he knows who that is.
Lloyd knows. Yeah, Lloyd knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. All right. So you got obviously the community outreach thing coming up and things like that. when you look at how you're going to schedule your life, obviously you have to make money for yourself. And excuse me for asking, I hope it's not nosy, but are you able to live off of just your art, or are you like me, having to do some other job in order to pay for the time? Well, I'm just being honest.
Well, I don't trust myself right now to be able to live off my art. To be honest to you, I do. I work for a company that does IT work. What I do for a money living,
right?
I work for a company that installs what do you want to call it, CAD software for some automotive suppliers. So that's what I do. That's what my pay stub says.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that.
But
not a lot of people in America are doing well enough at at the thing that they love, so that they can, give up what I call a day job. I'm an IT consultant, and I'll tell you right now, I feel like every day I go out there and have to do stuff, I feel like I'm not the lead dog in a dog sled team.
Well, the funny thing is that one of my partners in Imaginos, he's finishing medical school. My partner, Nick Amati, and he's like, man, he's always kind of like, man, when he comes back from his rotation, he just has a look on his face like, man, we got to get this rolling, man, so I don't ever have to go work in the emergency room.
Yeah.
That's like, but I think he's going to make a great doctor, if he ever gets to emergency room. But, I just, and that's funny, too, because this guy is in medical school, but his heart is there. His heart is in creating. We write scripts together, we critique each other's stuff, and we work hard, and we're starting to see some fruits come from this. If you focus, work hard, and try to get as much information as you can, you're going to get there, one way or another.
Right.
And a lot of times people want to give up, or they want to take the easy road. You take the easy road, you're going to the fruit that bears is usually going to be, not of the finest quality.
Yeah, it can be bitter.
Yeah, it can be bitter. But you're eating it up. You're like, at least I got some fruit. Nah, don't work like that.
Okay, so you've got this loose association of guys that you like to do stuff with. You're mostly, you said a little while back that you're definitely embedded in the comic world. Tell us a little bit about the things that you've been doing there, and how you're getting received in that arena.
Imaginos is weird because we right now in this sampler is mostly our own stuff. So we got a superhero comedy we're working on called Candy Coated, and what's kind of unique about it is that we're role playing guys too. So we play role playing. That Saturday is what we do. We role play. We play Dungeons and Dragons type, Rifts, Palladium books type games, and one of the games is Heroes Unlimited. And so we actually everything that happens in our weekly games happens in the comic.
Okay.
So, and this is a comedy, so you can kind of figure out, that this thing is kind of all over the place, and, the characters will do some things. Sometimes I'll just have to raise an eyebrow like, what? I can't believe that. Got to go in the book. It's just fun. It's something that we're doing. We decided to do the group of friends, who, like comics and like role-playing and stuff. Something we decided to do because we got the talent, and people are receiving that pretty well. People are, want to know more about it. You got, as with any comic, you got your signature characters, that
right.
people are liking and stuff. And we think that commercially, that's going to be that particular property is the one we're putting out for the masses. It's the most easily digestible of the properties we have.
Sure. Now, is this an online work?
Actually, no. We're doing this via comic, and it's the first time you're going to see it is in this Imaginos Plus sample that we're doing this anthology.
Okay.
And the other story that's in there is owned by my partner Joe Kane. Is the story Requiem. Requiem is like a what you want to call a Final Fantasy type mystery thriller. Where what happens is that you have this one definitive point in this galaxy that happened, and it was like really big, but nobody seems to remember it. You know, I mean, it was like, you know, the somebody knocking down the Twin Towers, but no one remembers it. And so over time, you know, there's going to be some corporate espionage, and they're looking for artifacts. And as this corporate team looks for this artifact, they start to remember more and more and more and more and more, and they come to this cataclysmic climax. You know, that, I mean, no one's going to see it coming. You know, I mean,
well, don't give it away.
Oh no, I'm not giving it away, but no one's going to see it coming.
Well, that's good. I mean,
it's really exciting the way that we're crafting it. You know, we're crafting it kind of Alfred Hitchcocky. You know, it's even though Blade Runner and stuff, and the visual is going to be really cool because, you know, we like high sci-fi. And I mean, it's funny because a lot of people, they don't know what to make of this, so we kind of have to handhold as we, you know, put this one out. But my main focus is my own actual property. It's a Afro-futurist dystopian story called Judafist, 7 Deaths of the Yobi.
Okay.
I take a ton. I'm big on African mythos. I'm big on, no matter if it's here, throughout the African diaspora, in Africa, or whatever, the mythos are very interesting. So what I'm doing is that I'm taking these mythos and I'm kind of doing an Octavia Butler run around and making these mythos science fiction.
Okay.
All right, you know, I'm dealing with these mythos because, you know, I don't want to beat you over the head with it. Africa. You know, I don't think that is the way that's going to get people to enjoy these mythoses, you know, as well as they can, because sometimes we can be kind of preachy, you know, and, you know, after a while a book is good, whatever, but after the third issue, it's still the same preaching that's going on. It's kind of like, I don't know, this book's kind of boring. So I love sci-fi.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the preachy part, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is once you set up your creative universe and once you set up the mythos, you know, your action should remind people of it so that you don't have to recite, you know, the 9 tenets of why the hell things are going on,
Heck yeah.
you know, every third chapter. So I mean, that just seems like good story construction to me.
That's why I try to do anyway.
Yeah. Well, and so this is going to be, I'm sorry, available in what format?
This is all going to be in this Imaginos Plus coming out in March. It'll be there.
All right.
Because what we're doing, this is the thing. This Imaginos Plus is going to serve us in more than one way, because what we're going to do is we're going to submit these stories to major publishers to see, hey, you know, major publishers always look for 5 to 10 pages. So if you're doing anthology, you're going to have 8 pages anyway, so submit it to Image, submit it to Dark Horse, see what they say. You know, if they like it, fine. If they don't, we'll continue to publish it ourselves. No biggie. You know, I mean. But yeah, Judafist is definitely. I mean, I'm proud of it, and I waited a long time to where my skill level matched what my vision was. So I'm proud of Judafist, you know, on that level too. You know.
So okay, so you're going to put all this together. You're going to publish this in first of. Hey, quit coughing.
There's some coughing going on over there.
Yeah,
I've tried to suppress mine.
And it's somebody from Arizona, you know, who won't mute their phone. Anyway, so you're going to have this coming out at the beginning of next year, you say?
Yeah, like
and
March,
then,
late March.
Yeah, March. And then are you going? It sounded earlier like you're going to be hitting the convention.
Well, we were going to
the con circuit.
Yeah, we're definitely hitting the con circuit. We're going to probably. Yeah. We got this new convention here, M2X, Midwest Media Expo. You know, we're probably going to be hitting that. You know, we're trying to toss up between there and so you got the great C2E2, which we had a ton of fun at last time we were there.
Are you coming down here seriously for that?
Yeah, it depends, because we don't know when M2X is going to be as it relates to C2E2, and you know we got waitlisted. You know, at C2E2 just a couple of days ago. I mean, we get waitlisted, but we still usually get a table, so I'm not worried about that. But I mean, we like C2E2. It's fun. We had a ball last time we were there.
Good. Hang on one second. Hang on. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This show appears every Friday, evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is the December 13th, Friday the 13th, 2013 edition. And, of course, our special guest is the multi-talented Mark Dudley. If you do come down to C2E2, you know, and I make the joke, but it is true. If I can get the ankle bracelet off, I definitely want to come by and see you guys. You know?
We might have to come to your house, hang out with you.
Well, that'd be fine. I'll cook. I'll cook if y'all come over here.
Nick might go in the refrigerator and see what's shaking.
Oh no, that's no problem. You know, so that's kind of good because, you know, obviously it's a great feeling to not only get out there and to be able to, and I don't want to make it sound like hawking your wares, but at least to put your creativity out in front of other people. And in the past, it sounds like you've had pretty good reception from the stuff that you've done already. How do you like being out in the circuit? You know, being you know, talking to people, and being able to relate to the people who are probably your fans.
You know, it's funny because, I mean, I've got a really good relationship with with my fans in terms of, you know, I don't look down the table at them. You know,
right.
First of all, you know, I'm looking at them as a person. I'm appreciative of them even liking my work.
Sure.
And, you know, I tell you, it's funny because, like, I get a lot of flack for my pricing on things. People be like, "Oh man, you pricing too low, this and that and this." You know, I'm like this. Look, and especially like prints and stuff. I'm like, I've already made my money off this thing. You know, with the client. So if I price a print at $3-4 or whatever, everybody else pricing their prints $30-40, I make my money off volume. First of all, and second, you know, I'm like, look, I don't think that nobody should be able to come in that convention and not leave with something to remember that they were at that convention.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize that kids, I mean, you know, especially for comics and comic art, you know, a lot of those fans are kids, and you want to charge a kid $40 for a print?
Well, again, a lot of those guys are cutthroat, and I don't like to ally myself with those people. You know, I stay away from those people. Yeah. But
I mean, that's great that that's your abiding philosophy that you know, not only are you reasonable in your pricing, but, you know, being appreciative of your audience is always a good thing, and that shows. You know, people see that in you, and it doesn't hurt at all. You know.
Well, I remember being unemployed and going to conventions and whatnot, and it's like, man, please, I know how this guy right here feels. He probably is unemployed too. He ain't got no money. So it's like, dude, why don't you make the stuff reasonable so that, you know, he can feel like, wow, at least I can still participate in what I love, you know?
Right. You mentioned that you're looking at probably going into movies. Are you talking about like 3D animation?
Well, actually, you know, we're writing some film scripts, so we're actually, you know, we write everything. We'll write a rom-com for you.
Well, sure.
You know, we'll write sci-fi stuff for you. We just, you know, we like story. We love the art of storytelling and any media that we can get our hands on, you know.
Do you have something in the works right now that you
guys
are?
I got a couple things in the work actually. We got a boarding school thing. We have a
like little girls at a boarding school.
Well, no, like
he said,
like
wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah.
Well, we can give you that too if you want that. We'll give you that. There's no harm in that. You know, we doing some, you know, it's funny because we do a lot of stuff with Palladium books. I mean, the fact that they trust me to, you know, be to interpret their wares is a great honor, and I really appreciate that, you know.
Right.
So we wrote some stuff based on one of their Nightbane game properties. It's kind of like a X-Men meets, what do you want to say it? X-Men meets X-Files meets Grimm or whatever you want to call it. It's definitely a sci-fi horror thing. You know, we got that written. We got that shopping around. We actually shopped at the Funimation. They kind of liked it, but they didn't have any money. They couldn't produce it. and
you're looking at these as 3D animated films?
Actually, we look at these as live action. If we can get them, we don't care what medium they put them in. They want to put them in animation, put them in there. You know, my thing is this: if you write it well enough, it can service more than one medium.
Well, sure.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, look at all the money that Marvel's made, turning their comics into movies,
Oh, heck yeah. And I tell you what kind of makes me laugh. People are like, oh, but it's not the same. I'm like, look, everything doesn't, translate, properly to the visual medium, to the moving visual medium. It just doesn't.
Yeah, but, fans are like that. Fans are fickle. Fans, obviously, I mean, what this whining is indicative of is the fact that a lot of fans have low tolerance for reinterpretation and change.
And they have ownership issues, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially. I mean, if you go on IMDb or you go any place where people are talking about these movies, they'll talk about, well, she didn't have a red belt in the comic book, and that's like
right.
a big deal. It's kind of a two-edged sword, because obviously if you get that kind of popularity for your work, for your characters, it's a good thing because it can translate, like you said, into different medium. But then on the other hand, people can get kind of ticked off, and if it doesn't come out the exact way that they imagined it. I went and I looked at Ender's Game and compared it to the book, and it would have been a hard book to do anyway. But movies, a lot of people don't realize that movies are a completely different visual medium than comic books or books.
Right, absolutely. They're more of a condensed medium than either, and that's
right.
That's a challenge, right? So, it's like Octavia Butler. Octavia Butler, they should have been they should have translated, any of those books into a film, but those books are complicated. Those not complicated from the standpoint of, it's hard to read or whatever, it's hard to digest. It's that there's a certain gravitas that you have to. If you don't have that gravitas in that film is going to die, man.
Right, and also the subtext of a lot of what she's written is not something that Middle America is ready to digest yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes you got to force feed them.
Well, that's true. I mean, I know that my books will probably be great movies, but probably after I'm dead. I'm not real happy about that.
You never know. It depends. You might find your agent, and he's like, yeah, that guy, I believe in him. I'm going to fight for him. And that's what it's about, finding that representation that's going to fight for you.
Well, and finding the other affinity artists that will help push your work forward.
And that's the thing, that's one thing, I've been, really, really fortunate to find people who understand the vision that I have. My vision isn't exclusive. That's another thing. I'm like, if you think that you can add something to the mythos, go ahead, add it. If it makes it better.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, what am I have to pay that guy? Yeah, you're right. You're gonna have to pay him, and you better make damn sure. Well, you do pay him when you get into the position to where you can monetize that thing.
Sure.
It's about being fair. And there'll be people around you that'll try to tell you, to be less than that. You should jettison those people.
Mhm. Well, back in when was it? I think 96, 97. No, excuse me, 2006, 2007. Around in there, I helped produce. Somebody did a fan fiction movie for Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
It was Power Rangers, and so we're out in the. And it was during the one of the years here in the Midwest for the 17-year locusts. You know how loud they get?
Oh yeah.
And they decided that they wanted to go film in the forest preserve. And so, of course, the whole thing was ADR. But then they turned around and they thought that we were going to help them distribute it, and they didn't get clearance from the Power Rangers people to do it. And they thought, well, they had an entitlement issue about, well, we did the movie and it's celebrating them. And I said, this isn't your work.
Right.
That's this is not your work. You can't go and represent this as anything other than a fan film.
Right.
But you still, if you want to show it anywhere, you've got to get. And so to what you said, a lot of people would love to be able to glom on to being able to use other people's ideas to kind of jumpstart their career, but you still have to make sure that you represent that these things are not your ideas and this is not your work.
And believe me, when that person who does own it comes and tells you to cease and desist, you better get the ceasing and desisting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and that's the other part of being able to do the business, being about the business of doing business. because there's so much in intellectual property that people don't know about. I mean, when I do the second edition of my first book, I'm going to have to make a lot of changes in there because I included some stuff in there that could potentially, maybe, might, could be, something that I'm going to have to address. Yeah, but you can only stretch fair use so far. But the thing is you get conflicting stories about something, leave it out. When in doubt, leave it out.
Right.
So now all of your stuff is original, right? The things that you guys are creating.
All our stuff is original. It's just best. It's that way. Except for the stuff, even the stuff we do with Palladium is original, but they own the copyrights to the baser work. Like Heroes Unlimited.
The characters and stuff like
that.
But
not so much even the characters, because this is where the gray area is with role-playing game, using that as a basis. All of these characters are created by my players in the game, right? So they own those characters. They don't own Heroes Unlimited itself, but they own those characters. You know what I mean? What I'm really going to be paying for when it comes time to pay for it, they let me do it right now without paying for whatever because I've been working for them for 20 years. But when it comes time to pay the licensing, I'm going to have to pay the licensing for the fact that, I'm using Heroes Unlimited as a marketing device there. We don't have to, but it just makes things a lot better, and it gives people a focal point to be able to see this world from that's in this game.
Well, and you are using, the focal point of what you've done is their creative universe.
Absolutely, and so I don't have a problem paying them. They want, they've been good to me. Why not be good to them?
Yeah, and another lesson that people ought to pay attention to, a lot of people have entitlements. Well, I thought of this, and it's not exactly like. Well, how many musicians get their asses sued because a riff in their song matches, something in someone else's song? People
the funny thing about a lot of that though, that really cracks me up, especially a lot of those guys like the Stones and those guys. They'll go sue somebody, but I'm like, which is their right. Let's put that out there. It's their right. But those guys stole so many of those riffs from the blues guys and all that stuff. It's not even funny. Maybe the blues guys need to use their lawyers.
There was a segment, a small story arc in The Sopranos about how a Jewish record producer who was also kind of like a mob, also had sent, he had helped a lot of these earlier black groups, back in the 50s, and the money never actually made it to the families or the people who did it, and the thing is when you've got something that's so public like that, you can't hide it. And the other thing is, ignorance of your riff is no excuse, because people claim, well, I didn't know. Well, like Coldplay, I forget what song it was that was the big deal that they copied. And if you have a jury, the jury can just decide, well, these people just copied this, and so deserves some money. So again, you have to do your due diligence about the business of doing business.
Right, and if you treat people right, they're going to want to come work with you. That's why, that's what it comes down to. I just, believe that, you see so much unfairness. Life isn't fair, obviously, but, I have control over what I do. All right? Life isn't fair is not an excuse to be, a sad sack running around here trying to rip people off. That's not an excuse. I have control over what I do, and so I'm going to try to be as fair and equitable with people as possible, and, let's go from there.
Let's talk a little bit about your work process. Obviously you're like me. You got what we call a day job, things like that. How do you schedule your life? How do you schedule your life for your creativity? How does that all work out for you?
Well, there's this little thing called sleep, see, and it gets sacrificed sometimes. I usually work. I usually work from like 9 to 6, whatever. Let me backtrack. I get up in the morning, do my thing, and if I have some time, I'll do some that little design work on whatever I was working on that night. I'll go to work, get off. One thing is that there's always business to be done, so I'll meet with one of my partners or whatever. My business partners, do whatever we got to do, and I'm actually always drawing while I'm there. I have mobile setup and I have a a home setup. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I take my laptop with me. I do a lot of, you know, like Lloyd. You know, I do digital stuff, but I also like doing stuff on paper.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, Lloyd will call me a dinosaur. I know he's going to call me a dinosaur right now. But I do a lot of stuff on paper still because it's just the feel and, you know, the control that you get from actually holding a pen or pencil and whatever. But my workflow is hybrid, really. It's, you know, part digital, part, organic. And,
Right.
you know, it depends on, you know, how you feeling. And, like, right now I'm inking this piece. I'm doing it, you know, using Manga Studio. You know, I could very well pull out the pen and do it, but you know, my thing is this. I'm about having fun, so I'll try new things. I'm big on trying new things.
Mhm.
You know, my wife will tell you, whenever she asks me what type of gift I want, it's usually a book to learn something new. You know, I taught myself a lot of stuff like computer coloring. I taught myself how to computer color, you know, from reading and stuff like that, which is to add more to the workflow. My thing is this. I want to know enough about doing everything in the comic process to know when somebody's ripping me off.
Well, also doesn't it help knowing how to use all these different tools also gives you some better insight into what the best tool for any given job might be.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because, you know, there are so many tools out here now, so many conflicting tools, tons of conflicting tools, you know, and we all have the stuff that we like. Like, again, me and Lloyd, you know, we Manga Studio diehard guys, you know, because the pens in Manga Studio are amazing. You know, that's the thing; they are amazing. You know, I know my buddy Brandon Brandon Clark, he's moved totally to digital. You know, and you know, that's the thing. It just comes down to, like I said, my workflow is hybrid, but you know, it's all situational. You know, in terms of, you know, whatever I need at a particular time, like you were saying. I don't know. My work in terms of schedule is kind of haphazard. You know, I mean, if I will sit down after about 11 o'clock, and I'll actually take those 3 hours from 11 to like 2 to get all my serious stuff done. You know what I mean? Then I'll go to bed.
Oh yeah, that's a quiet time when nobody's bothering you too.
Right. And my thing is that I'm a big hip hop head. That's another thing I got to tell you. I'm a huge hip hop head. So underground hip hop. You know, so it's like I got to have my beats. That's the thing. If I don't have my beats, you know, I'm kind of, you know, not feeling too cool about drawing.
Well, you know, everybody's got their process. Someone was telling me today that, well, they had to take a bath, they had to do this, they had to eat a certain way, you know, and they listened to certain things as their warm up to sitting down and writing, you know, and there's nothing wrong with having a process. I mean, obviously, different things work for different people. When you're
Wu-Tang
in your
is part of my process.
do they know that? You know, they should be giving you, you know, some props for that. You know,
I love them. I ain't gonna lie to you, because they got a gazillion guys, and you know, you may not like this guy this week, but they always got a guy you're gonna like.
Yeah. When they did a skit for Dave Chappelle.
Wu-Tang Financial.
Yeah. No, it was what was it? It was some takeoff on sports thing, and
oh, you mean the racial Olympics?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. And being Japanese, when he came out and said "Konnichiwa, bitches," you know, I mean, that was just too good for me. You know, that was just good for me.
I like that. Oh yeah. I figured so. You know, I'm like, yeah. That one thing, those guys again, they got a sense of humor. I can deal with that for sure. You know?
Yeah, and they don't take themselves too seriously.
Right, and you can, and again, I use those guys as a template because those guys have been together 20 years, fighting, doing whatever, but they still manage to pull it together and stay together. You know, and that's really what's about. And
their creativity. Look at the creativity that they still have.
And the thing, it's getting better every year. That's the worst part. I mean, you think that with Wayne, no, it's getting better every year.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what any artist wants to be able to say. You know, are they better now than they were, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And it sounds to me like you're pushing yourself to be better and better and better Plus, you're expanding out into different mediums and all kinds of different things to push not only your art but to broaden the horizons too.
Right. I mean, the thing is this too. Then you got people around. Detroit is cool because I know you guys had Maya Crown Williams on a couple of shows ago, and people don't know. You're talking about somebody who's out here trying to pull a community together. That woman, man, wow. She's over here. She's doing it, man. I mean, and you gotta give her nothing but respect and love because she's out here, grinding, trying to make things happen, and really setting stuff up. I mean, I don't know how she does it. I'm like, man, whatever you got in that, whatever vitamins you take and hand them over. She's just everywhere, man. And
so,
but that's what it's gonna take. That's what it takes. You got to be a grinder. You got to be a go-getter to make these things happen.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about Detroit. I mean, the only thing that people hear about Detroit in the news, oh, the city's bankrupt and oh this and oh that. Talk a little bit about the creative art community there. We obviously know about the conventions and things like that, but what are you seeing, having boots on the ground?
Detroit is an amazing place, man. I'll be honest with you from an artistic standpoint because, we really, it's small enough to where everyone knows everybody, but to have enough room for everybody to do their own thing. I would like to see a lot more collaboration. What is happening now? But the thing is that, again, talking about people like Crown, bringing people together, what she's doing some conventions this year, man, and that type of stuff is what we need from the art. Detroit, like I said, having boots on the ground, it's diverse. When I talk about Detroit, I'm talking about the metro area. It's hugely diverse. Yeah, Lloyd, thanks, Lloyd. Lloyd saying MechaCon, yep, from that one of the things Maya is throwing. It's going to be really cool. And there's also Black Comic Book Day that she's going to be throwing, I think, in February. That's going to be cool, too. But, like I said, on the ground, Detroit is really diverse. And what's cool about Detroit is that even, let's say that, we're quote-unquote black artists and whatever, there are so other artists of other ethnicities, because it's art, people are open, and they want to see you succeed. They'll push for you, to try to succeed. Now, don't get me wrong, we got our share of haters here now too. Okay, they're here, and I mean haters in the fact that people who would better see you, not do anything and crumble just to make them feel better about themselves. They're in any city. But I think right now,
that's that zero-sum mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, it's that zero-sum mentality. But Detroit, it's weird because it's a camaraderie here. We, if you're somebody from Detroit and they're doing something, and you can bet there's somebody else from Detroit, is going to be there rooting for them. And I think I try personally to be kind of like a go-between. Maybe that's the best word for it. If I know somebody that will make your stuff better, I'm going to hook you up. Or if I know somebody who you need to be working with, I'm going to push it. You know what I mean? And it's like I got a buddy of mine, man, this guy is amazing. His name is Charles Walton. Oh, man. When you guys, I'm telling you, when you guys see this guy, what they used to say, this guy's the truth. But the thing is that he's so humble, man, the guy is. He's a Christian brother, and he's just so humble that, sometimes, you want to kind of push him out the gate and be like, man, you walking around here, loaded for bears and fully armed out here, and, you don't want to go to the dance, man. You got to go to the dance.
Right.
But when he comes out, you guys are going to see something amazing, that's for sure.
That'll be pretty cool. Now, for people who want to check out your work online, where's the best place where they can kind of take a look at who you are and what you do?
I'm a DeviantArt type of fella. So people can go to dirtbomb.deviantart.com and they'll find they'll find my little slice of the internet.
All right. And then the other part, one of the things that I want to ask is, you talk about the intimacy of the group, of the community in Detroit. it does sound like, well, like you said, you've got the people who are dedicated to growing the community. You got your few haters out there who just want to do whatever it does to whatever they can do to uplift themselves, maybe financially. When you're out and about and dealing with that community, what are some of the best parts of the people there? I mean, are they as helpful as and do they have as much outreach as you kind of characterize them?
Well, the thing is this. I mean, this depends on the different strata. Cause like Andre is like an ambassador. We love him. That's what he does. He's a
Sure.
urban style. He's definitely an ambassador. And he plays his role there. Detroit Tradecraft. What's funny with Detroit Tradecraft, we have a bunch of guys. Like Arvell Jones is with us, and you guys know Arvell is like a legend in the black comic circles.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Keith Pollard there with us. And we have a different dynamic, and we usually, our main thing is trying to educate. And through that, we meet a lot of guys. I think that really it's there. I think that I think the camaraderie, is there, and it's growing. I mean, it's not what it was back in the early 90s, but, I think that it's grown to the point to where everyone knows the key players and everyone knows what to expect from them. And I think that, that's a place to, actually launch, a community from. I mean, even a better community. It's going to take time, though, I think. I think that, even with Lloyd, Cheatham, he throws a con, that, people like. And, I didn't get a chance to go to it this year. I'm not happy that I didn't. But, it's these type of people. People are taking initiative here, okay? That's one thing that I really like. And it's funny because there's this young lady, Kelly Gilroy. She has a book out now called Road to Detroit. And when I first met this woman, I thought that her art's pretty good, whatever, But people. One of my buddies, he's a professor at Wayne State in an entrepreneurial wing, and he brought her to my attention because she wanted to know how to put her comic out and stuff, right? Man, after I started reading this book when it was out, man, the book is at first I thought it wasn't going to be my cup of tea, but, man, this book is amazing. I mean, just the grittiness and the texture to the book is, it really has, it's almost like Detroit is in this book, you know what I'm saying? And that speaks to the community as a whole in that, we all see the same things. Okay, me with Judafist, Detroit is Judafist happens in the future, 72 years in the future, and Detroit is this big dystopian mega city, where the disparity between the haves and the have-not is almost like a chasm, okay, which is speculative fiction, okay. People who are here, they love the city, they love the thing, and so we always try to put a little of that thing into our work, and I think that's what really binds us. I mean, if I'm being clear, or maybe I'm being unclear.
No, yeah. So, it sounds to me like a lot of what you're thinking about in terms of putting your art together. I mean, let's talk about the Afrofuturism perspective. It sounds like everybody's looking at putting together forward-looking views, whether they're dystopian or not, but at least examining the life of that city and trying to convey it in an artistic way that other people are going to appreciate. And then when you talk about the grittiness of her portrayal and how it really speaks to what Detroit is and the way it's looking. I mean, is her work more forward-looking? Is it futuristic?
Well, it's actually more like she has like vampires in it, but they're not like vampires in the way they don't portray them. They're vampire, they drink blood and whatever, but it's more about these people being criminals and being enforcers and things like that. And it's the characterization. These people, they're not cardboard, and that's another thing that I want to put out there. is that when you're doing characters, work hard not to make them characters cardboard. I mean, a lot of people will do work and it's like, oh, I've seen that character 1,000 times, whatever. But she just really brings this life into her work, And the thing is, like you said, with the Afrofuturism and the dystopian relationships, even in Judah Fist, I try to create a sense. Yeah, it's dystopian or whatever, but the people who live in the cut, as I call it, what's funny about Judah Fist is cool is that you have these huge megastructures, right? But the old city of Detroit is actually built under the megastructures. They buttress the megastructures.
Okay, yeah.
So they call the city the cut. When you see it, it looks like it's like gouged out of these megastructures and stuff. And the thing is, even these people in the cut, they still manage to. There's still a love there. It's not a. You got bad elements there doing what they're doing or whatever because it's speculative fiction and it's sci-fi. So you're gonna have cyborg gangsters and things like that, or gangsters hyped up on drugs that give them abilities or whatever. But the bottom line comes down to this: the characters in that story, they love where they love where they are and who they are.
Okay.
Despite the fact of the situation they find themselves in, and that's something that they're going to protect. They're going to, and so the story gets bigger than them. You find out later on that the story has spanned 50,000 years and is a little more cosmic than you think, but it still comes down to relationships, people, and people loving who they are and being willing to fight for, what that is. So again, people talk about dystopia and whatever, but that soul is in there. You know what I mean? Just like in soul music, the soul is in there. And that goes back to speaking about Detroit and what it is, that we do here as comic artists. No matter what the book is, what the story is, you're going to find this different little type of soul in a book that is done here. I mean, I see it all the time. I guess that kind of answers your last question too. That is really the binding glue to what we do here in Detroit as artists, I think, sequential artists anyway.
All right, so let's talk about being a black creative. I mean, we've kind of glossed over it, but obviously it would be great as an artist, just a straight up artist, if you're going to use like absolute value, to be appreciated for your art, period. But in terms of, I don't want to even characterize it as Afrofuturism, but let's talk about the politics of race in terms of art, and is that something that is prevalent and something that has to be dealt with,
I mean, from
in that area?
From a political standpoint, in terms of comics, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is this: you got to figure it like this. This comics, we as black people, we read, we are comic readers, but you don't really see any. And people are like, well, you don't see any positive, you don't see any positive representations. Me personally, it's not about positive representations. It's about realistic representations. And we are, and those representations aren't always going to be positive. You don't see any realistic representations of us as a people in these comics. I mean, and again, I'm not going to knock anybody's hustle or what it is they do and how they do it, but it's like every time, first of all, I mean, let's get back to what you were saying. I was about to get off a tangent. As a black creator, I don't feel any pressure because it's the way I was raised. I was raised in an Afrocentric household. So, when I walk in the sun, looking at it and watching it shine on my face. I'm proud to be who I am, and I'm proud to represent what I represent. And a lot of times, you see people, thinking that they can cut these corners and be like, well, if you make the comic you're doing a little more, acceptable to the masses, you'll do well. Yeah, you'll do okay, but your soul isn't in it. So, I mean, there you go. As a black creator, I mean, sure, I've case in point. So we're doing the Kickstarter last year. This is our second time doing it, and it's doing a lot better this year, right? So
Sure.
I go to this comic shop that's in a that's in a affluent neighborhood. Now, and I've been there. I go there all the time. So I take the guy the poster, right? And so he looks at me and he looks at the poster and he says, you know, I think my customers might be afraid of this poster. And so he takes the two black characters and he covers their faces. He says, you bring me back something a little more that they can digest, and yeah, I'll put it up. I was like, oh, really now? It's like that, huh? Okay. I didn't make a scene. You know, I guess he wanted me to, oh, you know, I'm going to make a scene, rah, 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 rah. I'm like, okay, that's his establishment. You put in your establishment what you want to put in there. Now, what he doesn't know is that 9 times out of 10, when this thing debuts, I'm going to be taking any copies to his store because, again, his people are afraid of what I'm doing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, that's true. And how do you feel about people who are, you know, they obviously want, you know, black creators want to get acceptance. They certainly want to get publicity. They want to get, you know, wider distribution of their art, their ideas, and things like that. When you do your work, it sounds like you're just focused on doing the best work possible, without any of those extraneous or those other considerations.
Well, it's how you present it, though. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? If you, again, like I said, if you know, doing like the old school CB4, blackity black, blackly black, 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 you know, and there's no substance there, then no people. I think that a lot of times us as black creators, we think that people don't accept us for reasons far different than what it is, the real reason, well, what the reason can be.
Yes,
you know?
I know what's coming. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so, you know, we put out, you know, sometimes, you know, we will put our substandard work. And we put our substandard work, and we be like, oh, they don't want to check me out because I'm black. It's like, no, they want to check you out because your work is substandard.
Right.
You know? And so it's like, look, you know, we raised to think, I mean, this is what the popular notion is. When you're black, you got to work twice as hard. That's a popular notion. I mean, that's what it is. That's how I was raised, so you was raised, right? So we know this. So I tend to try to put that in everything I do. You know, if I'm not going to, and also you have to know what the competition looks like. You know what I mean? Like I'm friends with Ryan Stegman. You know, Ryan Stegman used to kind of do a little work for me, you know, back when I was doing Drunken style, doing some role-playing work for me back before he got in the comics. And I know what he's capable of, you know, and I know what my competition looks like. And if I'm not ready to hop out that door and combat that competition every day, then I don't need to be in that business.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also black guilt marketing where people, you know, black folks who put out substandard work expect you to support them just because they are black. Not because of, well, exactly, not because of the quality of their work, but because, well, you know, can't you got to support your community. You got to support, you know, and I find that almost impossible to do, you know?
I tell you, man, my mother told me this one day. She says, I remember this was vividly, man. I told her I charged somebody black something different for a piece of artwork than I would anybody else. Oh, she was livid, man. I mean, she was livid. And I'm like, well, why, Ma? You know, blah, blah. I'm not looking out for brothers. She's like, you're not looking out for them. You hurting them. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, look, all right. She said, you showing them that you don't respect them enough to charge them a rate worthy of an adult. Think about it like that.
A market rate, exactly.
Right, a market rate. And I'm like, oh, okay, Ma, I understand what you're saying, you know. And so, you know, I try to charge the market rate, you know, obviously, but it all comes down to us. Again, it's that work, man. It's that work. You know, I think we look at comics. One thing, well, okay, let's back it up. You look at our parents. You know, a lot of our parents, like my grandparents, you know, my mom raised me. They were sharecroppers from Mississippi. Okay, they really didn't. You know, this was about surviving. It wasn't about valuing no art. You know what I'm saying? So no matter how much money they get or whatever, working in the plants here in Detroit, that sharecropper mentality coming with them. You know, I know my grandfather, as late as the 1997, used to get on me about reading the funny books. The funny books, you know, the funny books is corrupting you. I mean, that's some old comic code stuff from 1950, but that's what he believed because, you know, he came from that era. That's who he was, right? So the thing is, as black people, you know, a lot of times you know, we also have that. I don't know. I don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg. I don't like calling it drug dealer mentality because that's not what it is. The mentality that that I won't say a lot of us because that's wrong. The mentality that some of us can have that makes it look like all of us have it. The majority, which is probably, like I said, the minority have it, is we have this fear of, we want instant gratification. Okay? Some of us want instant gratification. Okay? So when that instant gratification comes in, it's like, well, you know, like you said, I'm only gonna put in this much work, and it's a comic book. You know, comic book is a culmination of many things. It's a perfect marriage between art, design, and story. Okay, so if you slack on any of those things, is it really a comic book? You know?
Or how can you expect to have a good quality product if you skimp on any one of those aspects?
Right. I mean, even if it falls short, at least you can say you tried your best, and that's all I want to see. You know, and I think that, you know, some amazing guys out there, and sometimes, you know, people don't understand that we all need little tweaks. That's why I have a tour there for us. A tour helps me with the little tweaks sometimes. But I find, too, that we kind of hard-headed, too. There'll be artists I'll talk to that's younger. You go try to tell them something, they look at you like you crazy. Like, you know, well, you know, you hating on me, like you said, that zero-sum thing. You know, you hating on me. No, I'm throwing you a rope is what I'm doing, because somebody threw me a rope.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough road to hoe, and at least, I mean, from everything you said during the interview, you know, you have a good supportive community, and a community that is fairly broad. So, I mean, that speaks well of the kind of artistic environment there is, and how you all get along and cooperate, which is something.
We fight like cats and dogs, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but that's
we be fighting,
that's
any type
different.
of dynamic.
No, that's different. I mean, fighting like cats and dogs is one thing, but to run someone else down just to make yourself feel better or try to look better is just not the way to go.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. That's beyond unacceptable.
It really is. So let's talk about, you know, we got about 15 minutes to go. Let's talk about where you see yourself and what you're going to be doing. I would say let's go 5 years into the future, and then let's go 10 years into the future. You know, 5 years from now, what do you think? Oh, go ahead.
I like to see a Imaginos workshop, you know, cemented as a company. You know, I like to see us, you know, have a film or two out, some comics out, and be, you know, working towards producing our own stuff, you know, in different mediums. And the community, I like to see the community growing. You know, I like to see more, you know, kids, you know, taking up the banner of comic artists, I guess, you know.
Right.
And I like to have a hand in that. 10 years, you know, I like to have been a positive role in, you know, helping to rebuild, you know, and I don't like to say rebuild because Detroit's on the rise anyway, but I like to be a positive force in helping to do my part to put a couple bricks down here in Detroit, you know, and I like to be able to say that I also was there, you know, to make sure that Detroit kept its soul, because Detroit, you know, it's definitely in danger of losing it because of all of the gentrifying elements that are starting to take sway here.
Well, sure.
And I just like to be happy. I mean, that's what it comes down to: fun and happiness. I like to have fun. You know, if I ain't having fun doing what I'm doing, at the end of the day, it ain't worth doing.
So, and then I would imagine that somewhere along the line, it'd be great if you could give up the other gig. You'd be making,
I want to give up the other gig, and I want my Oscar. I laugh at my buddy Nick all the time. I want my damn Oscar.
So now, in looking forward, I mean, you talk about leaving your mark behind. I mean, you obviously have plans for putting together seminars, educational, an educational not-for-profit for teaching students, and which is pretty essential, because what you're doing is you're filling in the gaps
right.
that our current educational system is making wider and wider and wider. I mean, what were the first things that they cut when they ran out of money? They cut the art programs and they cut PE.
But they always do that,
so you got a lot of dumbass fat little kids sitting around not doing a damn thing, taking up space, dropping out and things like that. And
their fingers are quite muscular.
Yeah, well, maybe that's debatable. But the thing is, there are so many studies that show that kids who are presented with good, strong art programs and music programs, not only do they excel in their other subjects, but they actually come out, they have better reading scores, they have better comprehension, and the obvious thing about, like you were talking about someone else, they want to come back and they want to teach,
Right. Well, the thing is this: at the heart, certain things that happen in your life, they leave indelible marks, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
at the heart, I'm a Horizons Upward Bound kid. That program did. I'm not gonna act like I was out there destitute or whatever, but that program did so much for me in terms of allowing me to look at myself as more than just. I mean, like I said, my mother, they raised me well, I think, but that program made me look at other people and have more value for other people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
I'm a hub kid at the heart, and so what they taught us there was that you have to look out for the kid next to you.
Right.
That's the only way that you're going to be a better person. Look out for the kid next to you, and that's what at the end of the day, I just want to look out for people, and because it was not because I'm trying to lord over them, it's because it was done for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I'm
mm-hmm.
trying to pay it forward at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you see yourself as maybe a full-time teacher sometime in the future?
Yeah, I could do it. Yeah, I think I could do it. I love teaching. I love watching. That one when those kids get that spark, man, you can't beat it. It's like man, it's something
mm-hmm.
else. It's nuclear, right?
Well, their excitement is infectious.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's, or as George Bush would say, it's nuclear.
I heard a guy on one of these talk radio shows, and this is a guy who was involved in our, managing, the process of checking out nuclear threats from other places. He was kind of in our nuclear intelligence, one of the top guys in our nuclear intelligence program. And when he started saying nuclear, and excuse me, but he was a white guy, and I'm thinking to myself, how can you be so, how unbalanced can you be to be able to say something like that?
Obtuse?
Yeah, I guess, or just an ignat.
That too.
Yeah. All right, so tell us a little bit about the things that you would like people to pay attention to in your world right now, and where they can go and check you out. I mean, obviously you've got the DeviantArt thing. You're a member of BSFS. What are some of the current projects that you're working on that people can keep an eye on? And the other thing is, when you are going to make an appearance at any of these conventions or any of these other things, I would ask that you take the time and consideration to post them to the BSFS event calendar.
Absolutely.
So that people can come and check you out. If they've got a weekend, like if I get on the mega bus for $11 and come to Detroit, which it could happen for those. You're
going to end up eating Chinese, because that's what we do. We're going to drag you to the Chinese restaurant. You're going to be like, man, it's a Chinese restaurant.
ain't no problem with me. So be sure to post up, any appearances or any of the shows that you're going to be at, so that people, I want to get people in the habit of, if they've got a weekend, obviously this is a holiday month, but during January, February, March, when things are a little slower in terms of, holidays and things like that, so they can find out, well, I'm going to take a look at the calendar and see, oh, look who's going to be at C2E2. So if you would do that, that would be great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Again, I think that, Science Fiction Society.com. I mean, .com is just, again, you need these type of communities. You got to have these communities. You know, they're binding communities. You know, people don't understand the necessity of a binding community. You know, I didn't know when I found out the communities out here, man. I joined so quick it wasn't even funny. You know, it all comes back to Octavia Butler for me. I hate to say it. I'm like a super fan, right?
Yeah, she obviously had a great influence on you. And what's bad about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, she made me take Judah Fist from being a superhero comic to a sci-fi comic. You know, it made me speak, because I had to speak to more relevant things than just, you know, people beating each other up. You know, they beat each other up, but still.
Yeah. How did you actually discover Octavia Butler?
I'm
always curious about that.
Well, I have a cousin who his aunt gave him Parable of the Sower. And so I'm over his house one day, and I'm like, man, what is this? He said, man, you know, Octavia Butler. And I'm like, well, you know, I'd heard some things, whatever. So I stole his book.
Did you give it back?
Yeah, I did give it back. But he's
okay,
like, man,
good.
he's like, I read that book 1,000 times anyway. But yeah, I saw I got onto it, and I was just like, wow, I see why people say what they say, you know, about her. So I devoured everything else she wrote, you know. And I mean, there's also other people like Anne. I'm a big Anne Rice guy. I like Anne Rice. You know, I talk to her online. She's a nice lady. And there's this guy named Daniel Keys Moran. Just to show you how cool people can be as creatives. I talked to him a little bit about Judah Fist and whatnot. I was telling him I don't want to step on his toes. He's like, look, I write this stuff. Step on my toes. He said, but no what? He said, you better give me a copy of that book when it's done. I'm like, okay. You know, I mean, he wrote for Star Trek and he wrote for Deep Space Nine. I think he also wrote for Next Generation. You know, but he has this continuing time series. Man, this guy got some. He got some concepts like partitioning, people living. You know, one of the main concepts I like that he does is how people who are immortal, how they keep from going crazy, that they learn to partition their brains.
Okay.
Like you know, like you when you partition a hard drive. You know what I mean?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So they have many different lives that they've led, but they can, when they need the information, they can go back and access that information from that other life. You know, so it's like, wow, you know, that's a novel concept. You know, and I started reading a lot of his other speculative fictions and stuff, and it's like, wow, this guy's on the ball.
And do you see yourself doing any novel work, you know, any longer works like that, or do you think you're going to still work in? Well, obviously you're going to do full feature films and things. Yeah.
When I calm myself down, yeah, you know, I'll do it. You know, eventually. Now, right now, you know, I'm on the light fantastic right now. I'm moving 1,000 miles an hour, so you know, it's slowing down, not like it used to be, but you know, it's still kind of fast.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's based in excitement, not you know, not kind of, you know, any sloth or any, you know, ADD inability to concentrate, because obviously you're getting the work done.
Well, I'm just glad that, you know, first of all, as a black artist, I'm able to represent and still kind of remain true to what it is I'm trying to do, you know, and you know, like Lloyd said, you know, kind of be real. I mean, I guess that's the term. All right. And I'm also happy, you know, that now, you know, through, you know, places like Black Science Fiction, you know, Society.com, that, you know, I'm able to be around people, you know, that appreciate, you know, what it is that I'm trying to do, you know, and again, you asked me a question about, you know, being black as an artist. You know, I want to relate this one other story. Sure. I had this one girl who used to work for me, you know, young white girl, and this goes to show you the entitlement viewpoint. She asked me one day, she says, why is it that all your characters you draw are black? And I'm like, so I stopped and I looked. And I mean, you know, I looked her up and down. I'm just like, you know, I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's like they're all black. I'm like, you know, you might want to turn that question on yourself. Why is it that all the characters you draw are white? People, and so I explained to her, I said, people want to see representations of themselves in their work.
Sure.
Right? And if you got a guy, you know, I know some guys, black guys who, you know, they got characters that none of them look like them, you kind of want to watch that guy a little bit because there might be something going on.
Well, wait. I mean, did she? Yeah. Did she? I mean, how did she answer that? Did she did she have the awareness enough to understand exactly what you were asking her?
The light bulb went off 2 weeks later.
Ah, okay. And she came to you and said, "Okay, like, well, I get it."
Right. No, she said, "Man, I'm sorry, man. I know I sound kind of racist." I said, "That's not the point. The point is, do you understand what I'm saying?" She's like, "Yeah, like you want to you draw white people because that's what you represent. That's what represents you. There's no problem with that.
Right.
I'm not gonna hate, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I draw what represents me, black people."
Well, and you weren't hating on her because she drew white people.
Right. I mean, again, people love to be represented in their own work.
Yeah.
You know, and that's simply what it is. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing is that it's funny because, like, you know, Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino fighting. They're like, oh, Django, you know, whatever. I enjoyed Django. Did I go in there thinking it was the reality of what happened back then? No.
Yeah.
I'm not that, you know, I'm not that stupid.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of the things that I'm always conscious of. You know, that at first I worried about what if somebody doesn't like the way I portrayed this? What if this? What if that? And then, you know, I finally said, you know, you're telling a damn story.
Right. And do you like it?
Not everybody's going to like your story. And exactly, that was the next question. You know, the next thing I said, do you like your story? And I said, yeah, I really do like it. And then, you know, it dawned on me, okay, then tell your damn story and quit worrying about other people.
Right, and that's what it all comes down to. You got time for that. You know, that's energy you could be putting into doing your work.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, the marketplace will tell you if your story has marketable merit, not and whether it's. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to say one thing people got to understand this, too. I'm going to say this last thing. When you out here doing comics, you connect with those comic shops. They're going to tell you what it is.
Right away.
You know, you connect with them, and if they like your stuff, like with Imagine Those Plus, they're loving this stuff. So,
right.
You know, I don't worry about it. You know, if the comic shops like it, I know that they'll be able to get in the hands of some fans that's going to like it.
Right. And you mentioned that you were doing some online teaching to somebody overseas.
Yeah, I got doing some stuff in the Philippines. I got some. If I like a student and I know that I really want to help them, you know, move to the next level, you know, I'll take some days off. You know, I'll get online with them and teach them some stuff. You know,
that's pretty cool, man.
Man, look, the technology is there, and I'm amazed every day.
Well, I mean, look at what we're doing tonight. You know, I'm sitting here in Chicago talking to you. You're in Detroit, and Jarvis, who's running the board, he's down in Tennessee.
Doing this thing, and that's what I mean.
5 years ago, we couldn't even conceive of that, you know?
You know, they said that black people, that we are faster adopters of technology these days than anybody else.
Well, one of the things that, you know, I hate to tell the secret, but the secret for
don't tell the secret. Don't do it.
Well, all right. I won't tell the whole secret, but you're right. We do adopt technology faster in ways that are unexpected. Ways that are unexpected. I mean, look at how we use smartphones. I mean, it is for most black teens the communications hub for their life.
You mean the smart tether?
Well, there is that. So I mean, when there are opportunities ahead for content creators, and if they pay attention and capitalize on it, you're already there. I mean, you're already communicating with people worldwide, and if black content creators pay attention to the new emerging ways to get in touch with your potential audience, things are going to be going pretty cool. And
that's the thing. Before. The internet is another way, man, that you can just, get that word out there and, let people see what you're doing, and when webcomics don't cost anything except time.
Yeah. I mean, your distribution channel costs you zero practically.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Look, man, we've run out of time. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for making this a very easy evening for me.
Man, I had a ball. I'll tell you that. I had a ball, definitely.
I am glad. So when you, for people out there who want to check out Mark's work, it's Mark Dudley, but we're going to make him post a little bit more on BSFS. But his main art is at Mark Dudley, Mark C. Dudley, markcdudley.deviantart.com.
It used to be. You can get there with Dirt Bomb at deviantart.com too. I used to, I love the hip hop and the graffiti, so I got to, say stuff like that too, right?
Right. And for those of you who have listened, I want to thank you very much for being here. I want to thank you for tuning in every week. Please tell your friends that this show is on every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and to tune in. And then very shortly after every broadcast, this show is turned into a podcast. So if you missed your favorite artist or you want to learn something new about somebody who is a black content creator, the link at the blacksciencefiction.com blacksciencefictionsociety.com website will take you to the pages where all of these shows are archived. And since we're drawing to the end of our show, I'm going to turn it over to Jarvis, the main man. And Jarvis, what have you got for us tonight? Is he there? Am I
there? Yeah, Jarvis is there.
Well, it looks like he's here. Apparently, I guess I can't hear him.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, Jarvis is not flown the coop.
No, he was getting a sandwich downstairs.
Oh, that was early.
What's on that sandwich, Jarvis?
Oh man, it's gone. Actually, my wife made pizza tonight. But hey, I want to thank all you guys for coming on here. Everybody for participating, everybody for listening. Hey, it was awesome, man. I'm sitting here in awe, listening to this knowledge that you guys are dropping, and being humble with it. That makes a lot of difference.
You guys, man, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I tell you that.
Hey, man, get credit where credit's due. So just keep doing what you're doing, man, and everybody in earshot of the show, thank you. And to try to come on the show as much as the site as much as possible, and let us know what you're doing. And
absolutely. My thing is, like I said, I'm just glad to have a forum to be able to, show what I do, and I'm glad people are liking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's off the chain. It's off the chain.
All right, so thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hang on after the show. We'll have a little bit of after chat. And I want to thank everybody. This has been the blacksciencefictionsociety.com radio show, the Genesis Science Fiction Radio. This is the December 13th, 2013 edition with our special guest, Mark Dudley. I want to wish everybody a good week ahead, and catch up with us next Friday.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it. Beyond what you know. Believe me, I appreciate it.